Is AI going to replace us as writers? The question we're all asking in our heads, but don't want to ask out loud. If you want to know about how AI is taking over our industry, stay tuned for today's episode, where here at Semi Stages, we're going to talk about the changes AI is already bringing to our episode or to our industry.
So one really interesting aspect of this is because of indie publishing, right? Because all of us are now empowered. We don't have to go through a traditional publisher. We can publish our own things. We can write something, we can put it on Amazon, we can put our book up there for anyone to buy, which is great, but that means that there's no quality control. And that means that there's no standards or regulations. You can put whatever you want up there. So how do you go and you tell what's been written by a real human and they've spent hours and hours and poured their heart and soul into it and come up with something really good, or maybe even not really good, but they spent a lot of time on it, and what's actually been written by AI? And it's this fascinating world. Teresa, go ahead.
Well, and there's another part of it too that I've been really thinking about where, to me, and I've played around a little bit with ChatGPT. I think it's absolutely fascinating for writing blurbs and writing ad copy. It's not great. So I usually go through and I'll edit it a lot. There's definitely this idea that you can have your AI book and then have a human author or editor go through and clean it up. So at that point, you're are you merging the two together? Because I don't think, and I haven't played very much with it, I don't think AI is to the point where it's writing good books without where you can just have it do its thing and then pop it up.
It's very, very purple prosy.
Yes.
If you take, and for our audience, just to remind you, purple prose is when things are overwritten and you have a lot of adverbs and adjectives and it becomes very laden. So one of the problems, one way you can identify, go back to Molly's question, if you're reading a person or a robot is the density of which it's written. So in the AI programs, it doesn't pick out germane details necessarily. It sets the scene, but it doesn't know where to focus the camera. Where
that's a good way to put it.
We as good authors hopefully are a little better at focusing our camera. However, if you are really good at writing dialogue and not as good at writing setting, you can use AI to help describe the setting and then go in and pull out things, and vice versa. If you're really strong at writing setting and really weak at writing dialogue, you can have it get you started with dialogue and then go in and punch up the characters. And the interesting thing about AI is you can ask it to do different tones. So you can say, here's a scene between two people who are fighting, write it in a middle school voice. And then you can say, write it punchy and witty, and it'll write you a different version. You can say, write it literary fic, and it will do it that way. And so it can change your style to mirror other people's styles.
Yeah, you can literally tell it, okay, write it in the style of Hemingway.
Yep.
Write it in the style of Stephen King. So, but that's causing huge problems.
It is.
Because guess what now is coming out is that people are putting out AI generated books and saying, and putting authors' names on it, inspired by Stephen King. Well, the inspired is this little tiny, and it says Stephen King this big on the cover.
That's not even what I thought you were going to go with. Like, the other ethical dilemma is how, if they're in the style of Stephen King, for example, that means they had to have fed the AI engine Stephen King writing,
right,
without Stephen King's permission.
No, it's already in there.
I know. It's already in there. That's the problem.
That's what the writer's strike has been all about. So that is exactly why the big strike that's been happening in the writer's strike is because AI is already a plagiarist engine by nature.
Yep.
Because it was trained on all of these other authors. So anything, what is it? What is it, like 2020? I can't remember. It's like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, but there was no way to opt out because no one really knew it was happening. And a lot of the people, let's not necessarily blame them, but a lot of the people who were developing it are more scientist-based people. And they were just excited that they were doing something, right? They were like, how much information can we feed this thing and see what we can come up with?
But so here's kind of, yes, there's a huge ethical dilemma. So I'm just playing devil's advocate because I have feelings about using AI. So right now, I am not the best descriptive writer. I'm a really good dialogue writer. I need to get stronger in my descriptive writing. So I've been focusing a lot on Lee Verdugo. Great descriptive writer, really good at description and emotion and tying it all together and everything else. So listening to a lot of her books, kind of studying and being like, how is that happening? I am an intelligent being. Hopefully, I am using that information, that knowledge, that nuances to improve my own writing. That's not plagiarism, but I'm using it to learn, and AI is doing that too.
It's just a computer. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm kind of like, okay, I understand the plagiarism thing. I truly do, but it's learning. And as soon as it starts combining different things together,
it's not necessarily plagiarism. Like if you find an exact line or exact paragraph that is directly from somebody else's work, then that would be plagiarism. The ethical issue is like, training an artificial intelligence on someone's work or body of work without asking permission. Like that is an ethical issue, right? Because you're using their intellectual property to train your science experiment.
But Lee Verdugo I'm using Lee Verdugo to train my
You bought
brain.
her book, right?
I was
You
just
bought
gonna
her
say,
book, you put her book in the library.
Yes, that's
but
true.
when you check it out from the library.
Same thing. The library bought her book. Like that, it was a public knowledge consent kind of thing here. It's not an experimental science project, right? There are ethical, as an engineer, there are ethical standards that you have to maintain when you develop science and technology, or you should. And it has gone wrong before in the past. There's whole YouTube channels dedicated to science experiments gone wrong and ethical concerns. So that is a real ethical concern.
I mean, Jurassic Park explored that. Yeah, Jurassic Park explored that too. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you can't, the reality is you can't really put the cat back in the bag now.
Right.
Like the AI exists, it's here, it's been trained. And it has like a lot of really interesting applications. And we've talked about how like it's not that great at a lot of stuff, but the reality is it's only going to get better.
Right. And as authors looking at this horizon, do we need to pivot? And I don't know the answer to that.
What do you mean by pivot? What are you saying by that? So one of the best ways that indie authors build their fan base is putting out books fast. Because readers can be very voracious. Even just viewers. How many people binge a show on a weekend? Yeah.
A lot of readers are kind of the same way. They want to binge a series. Faster you put out that series, the faster people binge on it. AI helps you do that faster. I don't know if that's good. I don't know if that's bad. I think it just depends on your goals.
Well,
but I also
it depends on like, okay, so we talked about the ethical concern of like how AI was trained, right? And then you mentioned like, okay, like you used AI to write a book in the style of Stephen King, right? And now you're trying to sell it. That's a different, I think we can all agree that's not okay.
No,
that's not okay.
No.
But is there usage of, this is a very controversial like thing that I've heard a lot of people go back and forth on. Is there ethical usage of AI for writers? Can we adapt it? Can we use it in ways are there appropriate ways to use it? Right? I think writing your whole book, no. But you've mentioned
definitely appropriate ways. Like
you've mentioned some.
Like here's some. You're writing along, you get stuck, you're not sure which, like a setting idea, and you want something outrageous. And so you're like, generate a list of 15 outrageous settings that are commonly used, and then use an opposite one or use one from that list. So idea ferrying for sure. Or looking at dialogue and then tweaking it and being like, show me this dialogue in a punchy way, show me this in a witty way, show me this in literary fiction, and then looking at the different ways and let it train you to understand the difference in voice.
Yep. One thing that I've done is it actually works really good as a research tool.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we're all used to Google or whatever it is. And it's not that it necessarily replaces Google, but you can ask it questions, and instead of like getting a list of different pages and then having to go into results, it'll just pop up a few paragraphs of text and be like, oh, like if you were like, okay, what types of trees are in Northwest India?
Yeah.
I don't live there. I just need to know like a couple of names of trees. Boom. It'll bring it up. And then you can be like, oh, that tree, what does it look like? Like you can ask it follow-up questions, and you can, I mean, I fall into research rabbit holes sometimes, and it's helpful when I can get the answers to the specific questions I actually want pretty fast.
You can find comps there fast too. What
Yeah.
books have been written about an adventure of a middle grade? What books recently have done a romance on the beach? Or, you know, so it's interesting. What are the most famous authors in this genre? So it's a good way to get lists. It's really good for list generation to kind of get you to idea pairing, to get you, oh, okay, you know, and then move from there. And I think Teresa, oh, sorry.
I was going to say, that being said, there's studies that show that it's making stuff up about 20% of the time.
Yes. I was going to say,
got to be careful too.
It's, it works actually a little bit better on like discrete science stuff. They found it like if there's like good written technical articles about stuff, because it can mine that data, it won't make things up. It'll go to that. But on other things, yeah, it just, like you said, it will make things up that are in the style of the truth.
I love that, in the style of the truth.
That's like almost human, right? Like,
yep.
It seems
it's
right.
It's just BSing its way.
Yeah.
I think as authors, like going back to this question, like as authors, should we be worried about AI replacing us?
Yeah.
Personally, at this point, I think no. And I think that for two reasons. One, especially if you're traditionally published, there is a certain aspect of people wanting to buy books by an author. There's a certain aspect of like, they want to buy the Stephen King book. They want it written by Stephen King. They want to buy the Sarah J. Maas book. They want to buy whatever that might be. And even sometimes they're ghostwritten, but not that I'm saying those authors use ghostwriters. I'm not necessarily saying that, but like there is name branding, especially in the traditional, but also in the indie market as well. And I think that there's enough swell from consumers to want to buy quality in traditional and in the indie market, where hopefully writers can use it as a tool to make the writing better, faster, that kind of thing. But I think, and Teresa, you mentioned this, Amazon's already looking for ways to figure out what is AI generated, what isn't at quality, and potentially even take that down or remove it.
They are already taking it down. There's authors whose books and novellas are being taken down. And it's bots. It's all bots. They're taking it down, claiming they're unreadable. And so there's a lot of like, okay, so help us define what's readable and what's unreadable. And the assumption is that they're trying to figure out what is AI generated and trying to pull it down. Because even before AI, the fiction market was flooded. It is completely flooded. It is hard to shine. It is hard to make a name for yourself. And AI books have completely flooded the market, and it's frustrating readers because they can't find good books. There's a lot of wonderful books out there, but the AI market is flooding them out. So there's that concern too.
And even beyond AI, there's people who are publishing what are they called? They're not called like ghost books or blank books, where like they wrote a first chapter. And so
Oh,
if you do a preview, you see a first chapter. And then every page after that just has like invisible writing, or it has like nothing on it, or like one word on it. So you buy the book, you read the first chapter, and then there's nothing less. There's no book behind it. Like
yeah.
there's so many bad actors in different ways. AI is one of them.
There was a trick going on with Vella for a little while, where people were just filling up pages with emojis. Yeah. So there's a lot of trying to game the system going on. It's definitely an interesting field to be in, especially right now.
So is AI going to necessarily replace us? I say no. I double down with Molly's point. I remember a while back, I think it was the early 2000s, they tried to replace tellers at McDonald's, that when they take your money at the windows with just computer screens, right? And bots basically. And nobody would go to those McDonald's. And they almost completely shut down. And they had to put people back because they would not support them.
Okay, so I'm such an introvert. I'm like, can I please check out my own stuff? I don't want to talk to anybody.
But that's interesting. I think that's an interesting comparison, because what we found was there were people who were like, this is going to just completely replace front facing.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it didn't,
Mhm.
but it also didn't go away either. There are still plenty of McDonald's or whatever store it is that has screens that you order from a screen if you want to, instead of a person.
Oh, there's
Yep.
the Panera choice, right?
Yep.
Or you order online and you come pick it up,
Oh, that's the best.
all
You
that
don't
kind of
talk to
stuff.
anybody.
right? I know you and me are introverts here. But so it's not, the technology didn't go away, and it has an application, but the people didn't go away either.
I think the key, and this has been the key for a little while, is us. It is us. It is people getting to know us. That's why I love doing events so much.
Oh, you mean
because-
authors? Okay, I'm
Yep.
here.
Yeah. That's why I love doing events so much. I get to talk, introvert, but I do like talking with people. I get to talk with people, and explain why I wrote the book. They get to talk to me, they get to ask me questions and everything else. That's going to be the key to this. People don't necessarily, yes, they love the book, they love the characters. They also love the authors too.
Mm-hmm. That's a huge part of it. You think about cancel culture and how you cancel the author, and there's the other side of that, which is, critical. So the answer is it's changing the game for sure. And you can use it for tools to speed up your game, to teach yourself more about style, to get ideas, to do some research, but carefully, because it can be wrong 20% of the time. It's gonna give us problems, but it's gonna give us positivity. And if we make it, it has to do with us supporting each other and learning more about it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we're at a point where, think about in like 2002-ish or 2000, where right there, where cell phone technology is just kind of starting to come up. If you would have asked us then, like, okay, what's going to be the ramification? How is this going to work? How is this going to impact our lives? Things like that. Are we going to stop talking to each other? Right? We might not have known. I don't think, many people could have predicted how cell phones would grow and evolve and become smartphones. We'd have the internet at the tips of our fingers and all this. And yet all we would do is look at pictures of cats. We couldn't have known that. We were just at that beginning. And I think that's kind of where we're at, right? We're just at the beginning. And we can speculate about, oh, it could do this and that, and it might help and it might do whatever. But who knows how it's going to grow and change or get regulated or monetized or whatever it might be. We don't know that yet. I'm very comfortable saying we might be wrong. Who knows what's going to happen here?
Which is why we'd love your feedback in the chat. So please below, we'd love to hear what you think. Either ideas we're missing or technology we don't know about, predictions for the future. Yeah, help us out. We'd love to know what you think about how writers, are going to weather the great AI storm.
Absolutely. So what are you still doing here?
Go right.
Go right. See you around.